Hello, my name is Cleopatra. I am the Queen of Egypt, but I am ruthless. Therefore, you young plebeians who are here today, please do not look to me as a role model, nor do I want you to admire me. However, I have a very interesting story that I would like to share with you. So the story begins with the fact that though I am a young queen, I am the last of the Ptolemies. I'm sure you know who the Ptolemies are. Huh. Well, it was one of 4 generals who took over Alexander the Great's empire. It was so vast they didn't know what else to do, so they divided it into 4. So my ancestor, one of the Ptolemies, has Egypt. I want to be the sole queen of Egypt, but this is not easy. I have brothers who think that they deserve the throne. Oh, those brothers. I have to marry them, which is disgusting. I have to rule with them, which I do not care for. I would like to be the sole ruler of Egypt. Well, it doesn't take me very long to realize I need an ally. And it doesn't take me very long to look upon the Mediterranean world and look at the Romans. Aha, there's a man, a Roman man, who might just help. Perhaps you've heard of him. He's one of the most brilliant Roman generals that ever lived. His name, Julius Caesar. Oh, Julius. Julius is a little older than I am, but he is doing business in Egypt, and I take it upon myself that I must have a meeting with Julius Caesar. I need help securing the throne. I must wrestle it away from my brothers. Therefore, I come up with quite a clever idea of how I'm going to meet this Julius Caesar. You see, it's not as if I could just walk into his office while he's visiting Egypt. Oh no, my rivals are far too desperate to end me. So you know what I do? I have a servant wrap me up in a bed sack. Perhaps it's what you people would call a sleeping bag. So my servants wrap me up and then they carry me into his office as if I'm just a carpet or something, as if he's remodeling his office. You know what? It worked. I smuggled in, I got to meet this Julius Caesar. Can you imagine his face when I am unfurled and fall out before him? This young girl that I was at the time. Well, actually, I was there. I know what his face looked like. He was quite delighted to meet me. There I was. I dare say he actually fell in love with me. Not that I am particularly beautiful, I'm really not, but I have a certain air about me. I'm alluring, you might say. I'm mesmerizing, and he is enchanted with me. We keep a relationship going for quite a few years, and as a matter of fact, he will help me secure the throne of Egypt. It will be mine, just as I planned. Oh, Julius, we're doing quite well, he and I. Think about it. He has power. I have wealth. It's as if Rome and Egypt together, we were taking over the Mediterranean world in a way it had never been ruled before. Julius Caesar was merely part of the first triumvirate of Rome. This was the Roman Republic, mind you, not the Roman Empire. It has not yet been born. Now you're sitting there thinking, some of you, what is a triumvirate? At least I hope you're wondering, and I'm going to explain that to you. It's a fancy word. It simply means rule by 3. Triumvirate. Think of a triangle, 3 sides, a tricycle with 3 wheels, a triumvirate. It's a rule by 3. So Julius Caesar is one of them until he knocks the other 2 out. Now, Julius and I, again, we're sort of in love. We may never know. I might have just used him, but there is a problem with our love story. You see, Julius Caesar begins at some point to dismiss the Senate. Those are the senators, and you know what senators do? They represent the people. But he doesn't listen to them. You could say he wrote one too many executive orders. So he dismisses the Senate, which means they do not care for him. No. They reach a point, the Senate, where they decide they would like to take this man out. and they scheme it. Picture this: on the windy Ides of March, which is March 15th, 44 BC, the senators gather around Julius Caesar, and he had been warned, but he dismissed the warning. And the senators gather around and they stabbed him to death. As a matter of fact, even one of his very best friends was in the crowd. William Shakespeare will write of this in his famous play, and as they literally will stab him, Caesar will look up even at his friend Brutus and say, "Et tu, Brutus?" Meaning, even you? And the answer is yes, even his best friend will stab him in the back. Now, since this is all about me, I have a problem, don't I? My powerful partner is gone. He's deceased. What am I to do? Well, it doesn't take me too long to look around the Roman world and realize, after the first triumvirate broke up because they are now all dead, there's a second triumvirate. This is very important to know. So these Romans, they put another triumvirate in place, a rule of three, and this time they have Gaius Octavian, Lepidus, and a very handsome one named Mark Antony. Oh yes, Mark Antony, you've heard of him. I look at this Mark Antony and I believe he is a solution to my problems. When he visits Egypt, I do much to him what I did to Julius Caesar. I meet him and he is allured with me immediately. As a matter of fact, Mark Antony and I, we will marry. And you know, when we married, he will dress up like an Egyptian. I believe that was my idea. It's a problem, however, as far as the Romans are concerned, because you know what the Romans think? They look around and they're like, "Mark Antony, who are you most loyal to, Rome or to Egypt?" They were quite nauseated that he dressed up like an Egyptian, and they questioned his loyalty. I mean, he couldn't quite imagine this world without me, so he was quite loyal by my side. Now, things are going well for Mark Antony and I, except the second triumvirate begins to break up. Lepidus runs off. These guys are rivaling each other, and so Gaius Octavian looks at Mark Antony and thinks, "You don't deserve to be a ruler of Rome, not with me." So those two are going to fight. There will be a civil war between the Romans. Now listen, my friends. There will be a famous sea battle. It will be called the Battle of Actium. And all three of us are in this battle because it's a civil war between Gaius Octavian and Mark Antony, and I'm caught between them because I am Mark Antony's wife. So we're out upon the Mediterranean, and I am in my ships, which are the most beautiful ships. I have purple sails, I have golden oars, I have servants. Ha! It's all about me. Mark Antony is upon the sea, as is Gaius Octavian. And then, I'm not quite sure how I read the situation, but I do panic just a bit because I'm worried. I am worried. Maybe this battle isn't going to go the way I would like. And so I point my ships home toward Egypt, and there I go. I go to Egypt, and Mark Antony is left, my dear, with a very difficult decision. Will he follow me to Egypt? Or is he going to stay and fight against Gaius Octavian out upon the sea? Anyone want to guess what he's going to do? The man who can't seem to live without me? You know what he's going to do. He's going to follow me to Egypt. Well, unfortunately, this just lets his men know what they already suspected, was that his loyalties are far more with me and Egypt than with Rome. He leaves the sea battle almost as a coward. Now when I return to Egypt, I hide for a bit. I'm not quite sure what to do next. And Mark Antony, I don't know. He's following me, but he has. And when he reaches Egypt, this is quite tragic, but he believes that I have taken my life in my own despair and fear. Now, I haven't, but he doesn't know that. And so he, thinking he could not live without me, he will attempt to take his own life. He falls upon his sword. Now, I am able to get to the side of my dear Mark Antony, and I will cradle him in my arms before he perishes. So he does know before he dies that I have survived. But now I am lost. What am I to do? Let's recap. I have had this Julius Caesar to help me secure the throne. Caesar is assassinated on the windy Ides of March. I attach myself to Mark Antony, and now we have been defeated at the Battle of Actium. Well, quite tragically, I am at a loss. I don't think Gaius Octavian, the one who is after us, is exactly going to be enraptured with me. No, we are enemies. So, though your Judeo-Christian book would say otherwise, would say it's not the right thing to do, I do take my life. You know, I have experimented with taking lives. I used to take various snakes and try them on for size with servants to see what would kill quickly and without too much pain. It is believed that an asp is the snake I will choose, and before I depart, I will dress myself up like Isis, an Egyptian goddess. I do feel I am the fulfillment of her. Now, you might think that this is the end of my story, but there is actually a little bit more that I must tell. So after I perish, I need to tell you a little bit more about Gaius Octavian. He does something. First of all, he's going to change his name. You see, something I failed to mention earlier is that Gaius Octavian is the great-nephew of Julius Caesar, my first love. And so Gaius Octavian will name himself Caesar Augustus, something I don't want you to ever forget. So Gaius Octavian, who is now Caesar Augustus, will declare himself the emperor, and that means the Roman Empire is born. The Roman Republic is gone, and it is now the Roman Empire. I'm sure you've heard of the Roman Empire. Let me explain why he's the emperor. The Romans have given up on the idea of 2 consuls or 3 in their triumvirate. It's not working. All they do is fight. They thought it would prevent tyranny. It does not. So 20 years into his reign, he decides he will count his people. That means he's going to run a census. And because he runs a census, people have to travel to their hometowns. Friends, I think you know the rest of the story. That story is the very Christmas story that comes out of your holy book of Luke. Do you realize Mary and Joseph traveled to Bethlehem because Caesar Augustus declares everyone be counted? What they do not know, nor do they understand, is that they are fulfilling prophecy, even as they travel, this Mary with child. And they go to the city of Bethlehem, which Micah, an Old Testament prophet of yours, in Micah 5:2, he predicted and proclaimed that the Christ child would be born in Bethlehem, and he is. If you ever wonder about God's hand in history, think about my story. The mystery of history is that there's a plan. That Christ child was born in Bethlehem. You know, there was no room for him in the inn, but he was born, and the angels proclaimed it and sang about it. The prophets had predicted it, and then they say the perfect life that he led would give testimony to his very divinity. My friends, the mystery of history is that there is a plan, even in what appears the most minute, even in my own fickle heart, as I am defeated at the Battle of Actium. So I hope when you hear perhaps your pastor in your pews or your family as you read Luke this year would like you to think of God's hand in history and dwell upon the mystery of history. Thank you for joining me.